Walking into a dispensary for the first time or even the 100th time can be overwhelming. Bright lights, dozens of products, bud tenders throwing around percentages and strain names, marketing labels screaming premium and top shelf. It's designed to make you buy, not necessarily to make you buy well. And that's a problem, especially if you're new to legal cannabis or returning after years away from the plant. The cannabis market has exploded, and with that growth comes both opportunity and confusion. Legal access is incredible, but it also means navigating an industry where quality varies wildly, where marketing often trumps substance, and where the person behind the counter might not have your best interests at heart. Whether they mean well or not, dispensary staff operate within a business model that prioritizes profit, and understanding that changes how you should approach every purchase. This isn't about being cynical or distrusting everyone. It's about being informed, asking the right questions, and making decisions based on knowledge rather than marketing hype or assumptions. Cannabis is medicine for many people, recreation for others, and often both. Whatever your relationship with the plant, you deserve quality products that actually serve your needs rather than the dispensary's bottom line. Let's break down the essential strategies for buying cannabis intelligently, avoiding common pitfalls, and getting real value for your money. Not all dispensaries are created equal. In many cities and towns with legal cannabis, you might have 5, 10, or even 30 different options within driving distance. The range in quality, professionalism, product selection, and customer service is enormous. Choosing where you shop matters as much as choosing what you buy. Small, locally owned dispensaries often provide better experiences than large corporate chains. Why? Because the owner has skin in the game. When you're talking to someone who owns the business, who built it from the ground up, who genuinely cares about reputation and community relationships, you're getting different service than from an employee who's there for a paycheck. This isn't to knock bud tenders. Many are knowledgeable and passionate. But there's a difference between talking to someone who's working retail and talking to someone whose livelihood depends on satisfied customers who return month after month. Owners tend to know their products intimately, understand their customer base, and care about long-term relationships rather than just today's transaction. When evaluating dispensaries, pay attention to the vibe. Does it feel professional and welcoming, or rushed and transactional? Can you actually see and smell products before purchasing, or is everything prepackaged behind glass? Do they have proper lighting so you can examine flower quality, or is it dimly lit to hide defects? Are staff willing to answer questions patiently, or do they push you toward quick decisions? A quality dispensary will have KOAs, certificates of analysis, readily available for every product. They'll let you smell flower before buying. They'll answer questions about cultivation practices, testing results, and product origins. They won't pressure you toward the most expensive options or whatever they're trying to move quickly. Take your time finding a dispensary you genuinely trust. Visit multiple locations. Ask questions. See how they respond. Once you find a place that checks all the boxes, building a relationship there pays dividends. You'll get better recommendations, often better pricing, and the confidence that comes from working with people who actually care about your experience. Walk into most dispensaries, and you'll immediately notice the numbers. THC percentages are prominently displayed, often in the largest font on the label. 28% THC, 32% THC, 36% THC. And there's an assumption, pushed heavily by marketing and reinforced by less informed bud tenders, that higher numbers mean better weed. That assumption is wrong, dangerously wrong, especially for people new to cannabis or returning after years away from it. Modern cannabis is significantly stronger than what was available in previous decades. What you might have smoked in the 70s or 80s was probably in the single digits for THC percentage. Today's mid-range flower sits around 15 to 20% THC, and that's plenty potent for most purposes. The ultra-high THC varieties, those 30+% strains, are often overwhelming for people without significant tolerance. But there's a bigger issue. Chasing high THC percentages often means sacrificing other valuable components. Cannabis is most effective as a whole plant medicine, with cannabinoids working together synergistically. THC and CBD in combination create different, often more balanced effects than THC alone. Terpenes, the aromatic compounds that give cannabis its smell, dramatically influence the experience and contribute their own therapeutic properties. When breeders focus exclusively on maximizing THC, other cannabinoids and terpenes often get depressed. You end up with one-dimensional cannabis that's strong, but not necessarily enjoyable or therapeutic. It's like drinking grain alcohol instead of good whiskey, technically more potent, but missing all the complexity and character that makes the experience worthwhile. For most people, especially those without massive tolerance, flower in the 15 to 25% THC range provides excellent effects while maintaining better terpene profiles and fuller cannabinoid spectrums. You get the benefits of the plant without the overwhelming intensity that can turn a pleasant experience into an anxious, uncomfortable one. Don't let bud tenders or marketing pressure you toward the highest numbers. Ask about terpene profiles instead. Look for products that include CBD alongside THC. Choose cannabis that appeals to your senses rather than impressing with percentages on paper. Here's an uncomfortable truth. The person behind the counter at most dispensaries is not an objective advisor working in your best interest. They're retail employees working within a business structure that has specific goals, moving product, hitting sales targets, maximizing profit margins. This doesn't make them bad people. Most bud tenders genuinely want to help customers find good products, but they're also operating under constraints and incentives that may not align with your needs. Maybe management is pushing them to move older inventory that's been sitting too long. Maybe certain products have better profit margins, so there's pressure to recommend those. Maybe they're genuinely knowledgeable, or maybe they just started last week and are repeating what they've been told. The quality of bud tender knowledge varies wildly. Some have extensive personal experience, deep understanding of cannabinoid science, and genuine expertise. Others know just enough to be dangerous, enough terminology to sound knowledgeable without really understanding the plant or how different products affect different people. Ask questions, but verify. If a bud tender makes a recommendation, ask why. What makes that particular product right for your needs? Have they tried it personally? What feedback have they gotten from other customers? Are there alternatives you should consider? And pay attention to how they respond to your questions. Do they listen to what you're actually asking for? Or do they immediately start steering you toward specific products regardless of your stated needs? Are they patient with questions, or do they seem rushed and dismissive? Do they acknowledge the limits of their knowledge, or do they confidently assert things they might not actually know? The best bud tenders ask questions before making recommendations. They want to understand your tolerance, your preferred effects, your consumption methods, any sensitivities or concerns. They treat it like a consultation rather than a transaction. If you're not getting that level of service, don't assume their recommendations are optimal for you. Experienced cannabis consumers shop with their noses and eyes first, labels and percentages second. This is the most reliable way to assess quality, but many dispensaries make it difficult or impossible to properly inspect products before purchase. A quality dispensary will let you smell flower before buying. They'll have jars they can open, letting you get your nose in there and evaluate the aroma. This matters enormously because terpenes, those aromatic compounds, tell you most of what you need to know about the experience that cannabis will provide. Fresh, properly cured cannabis has powerful, distinctive aromas. Citrus, pine, diesel, berries, earth, spice. The specific scent varies by strain, but quality flower always smells strong and appealing. If you stick your nose in a jar and smell nothing, or if it smells like hay or grass clippings, that cannabis is either old, improperly cured, or both. The terpenes have degraded or evaporated, and with them went most of what makes that flower worthwhile. Visual inspection is equally important. Quality cannabis should be vibrant and alive-looking. You should see trichomes, those crystalline structures that coat good flower like frost. The buds should have good structure, not be overly dry and crumbly or damp and spongy. Colors should be vivid, greens, purples, oranges, not dull browns or yellows that indicate age or poor handling. If a dispensary doesn't let you see and smell flower before purchase, that's a red flag. They're either hiding quality issues or operating under regulations that prioritize packaging over customer assessment. Either way, you're buying blind, which puts you at significant disadvantage. Insist on being able to evaluate products with your senses. If a dispensary won't accommodate this reasonable request, take your business elsewhere. There are plenty of places that will let you properly assess what you're buying. Walk into any dispensary, and you'll see the hierarchy: bottom shelf, mid-tier, top shelf, premium, private reserve. The labels suggest ascending quality, with corresponding price increases at each level. Sometimes this reflects reality. Often it doesn't. The dirty secret of dispensary shelving is that placement is often about marketing and profit margins as much as actual quality. That private reserve label might indicate genuinely exceptional cannabis, or it might just mean someone decided this particular batch could command a higher price point with the right branding. Some dispensaries absolutely do maintain quality standards across their shelving tiers. Top shelf genuinely means better flower, more frost, better cure, superior genetics, more careful handling. But others use these categories more loosely, moving products around based on what they need to sell rather than consistent quality metrics. How do you tell the difference? By not trusting the labels and instead evaluating products based on actual observable quality. Use your eyes and nose. Check the TOA. Look at trichome coverage and bud structure. Smell the terpene profile. Compare products across price tiers and see if the higher-priced options actually justify the premium. Sometimes the mid-tier flower at a good dispensary is better than the top-shelf flower at a mediocre one. Sometimes you'll find exceptional value in lower-priced options that don't have fancy marketing but deliver excellent quality. The label on the shelf tells you what the dispensary wants you to think. Your senses and the actual test results tell you what's real. Don't let premium pricing or marketing language make decisions for you. Evaluate every product on its merits, regardless of what shelf it sits on or what superlatives describe it. Quality reveals itself through observation, not through labels. Every legally sold cannabis product should come with a certificate of analysis from a licensed testing laboratory. This document tells you exactly what's in that flower, cannabinoid percentages, terpene profiles, and crucially, whether it passed screening for contaminants like pesticides, heavy metals, mold, and residual solvents. A reputable dispensary makes codes easily accessible. They should be available on their website, scannable via QR code on product labels, or readily provided by staff when requested. If a dispensary can't or won't show you COAs for their products, that's a deal breaker. Walk out. The COA tells you what you're actually buying beyond marketing claims. Want to know if that flower has any CBD to balance the THC? Check the COA. Curious about the dominant terpenes that will influence effects? Check the COA. Want confirmation that you're not smoking pesticides or mold? Check the COA. Learning to read these documents empowers you as a consumer. You're not relying on what the bud tender tells you or what the label claims. You're looking at independent laboratory analysis of the actual product. That's the difference between educated purchasing and blind faith. Make it a habit to review COAs for products you're considering. Over time, you'll start recognizing patterns, which terpene profiles you prefer, what cannabinoid ratios work best for your needs, which farms or brands consistently show clean test results. This knowledge compounds, making you a progressively more informed consumer with each purchase. Dispensaries dedicate significant shelf space to concentrates, shatter, wax, live resin, rosin, diamonds, sauce, and countless other forms. These products can be valuable for experienced users who understand dosing and have appropriate consumption equipment. For everyone else, they're a minefield. Concentrates are exactly what they sound like: concentrated cannabinoids, often reaching 70 to 90+% THC. The effects are intense, immediate, and can be overwhelming if you're not prepared for them. They also require specific consumption methods, dab rigs, specialized vaporizers, or careful mixing with flower that aren't intuitive for beginners. The extraction processes used to create concentrates vary widely in safety and quality. Some methods, like ice water hash or rosin pressing, use only physical processes without solvents. Others use butane, propane, ethanol, or CO2 to extract cannabinoids, and if not purged properly, residual solvents remain in the final product. You're smoking those solvents when you consume the concentrate. Unless you have specific experience with concentrates, know what you're doing with dosing, have appropriate equipment, and understand the extraction method used for the product you're considering, stay away from this category. There's nothing wrong with concentrates in principle, but they're advanced level products that can easily cause bad experiences for unprepared users. Stick to flower until you've developed solid understanding of how cannabis affects you, what cannabinoid and terpene profiles work for your needs, and how to manage dosing effectively. Once you've built that foundation, concentrates might be worth exploring, but rushing into them without that experience is asking for trouble. Pre-rolled joints are convenient, no question. You don't need to know how to roll. You don't need grinders or papers or any preparation. Just grab a pre-roll and go. That convenience comes at a cost, though. Most pre-rolls are made from inferior cannabis, using trim, shake, and the bottom of the barrel material that dispensaries can't sell as premium flower. The cannabis industry has a waste problem. After manicuring buds and preparing them for sale, there's leftover material, sugar leaves, small buds, bits that break off during handling. That material needs to go somewhere, and pre-rolls are often the answer. It's not necessarily bad cannabis, but it's definitely not the best representation of the plant. Pre-rolls also tend to be dry. They sit on shelves in paper tubes, losing moisture and terpenes over time. By the time you smoke them, much of what made that cannabis appealing has evaporated. You're left with harsh, one-dimensional smoke that doesn't showcase the plant's potential. If you don't know how to roll and want convenience, invest 15 minutes learning or buy a simple pipe or vaporizer instead. You'll get dramatically better experiences smoking quality flower you select yourself rather than pre-rolled mystery material in a tube. Delta 8 THC products, especially the carts and disposable pens flooding gas stations and convenience stores, represent one of the sketchiest sectors of the cannabis market. Delta 8 exists in a regulatory gray area, which means less oversight, less testing, and more opportunity for contaminated or mislabeled products. The extraction and conversion processes used to create Delta 8 products often involve harsh chemicals and solvents. When those processes aren't executed properly, and in an unregulated market, there's no guarantee they are, you end up with residual contaminants in the final product. You're vaping or smoking those contaminants directly into your lungs. Some Delta 8 products might be fine. Maybe you find a source you trust with legitimate lab testing showing clean results. But as a general rule, the convenience and legal ambiguity of Delta 8 carts come with risks that outweigh the benefits. If you're in a legal cannabis market with access to real dispensaries selling properly tested products, there's no compelling reason to mess with Delta 8. And absolutely, under no circumstances, should you buy cannabis products at gas stations or convenience stores. The quality is universally terrible, safety testing is non-existent, and you have no recourse if something goes wrong. The cannabis industry is still largely unregulated in many places. It's the Wild West. Gas station cannabis products represent the absolute bottom of that market. Stay far away. Buying cannabis intelligently isn't complicated, but it does require breaking some assumptions and questioning some common practices. The biggest THC percentage isn't automatically the best choice. The top shelf isn't always superior to mid-tier. The friendly bud tender might not be giving you optimal advice. Premium marketing doesn't guarantee premium quality. What matters is developing your own assessment skills, asking the right questions, demanding access to proper testing information, and choosing products based on observable quality rather than marketing claims. Shop with your nose and eyes, verify everything, build relationships with dispensaries that respect you as an informed customer rather than treating you as a mark. The legal cannabis market is still young and evolving. Standards will improve over time, regulations will tighten, and consumers will become more educated. But right now, protecting yourself requires skepticism, knowledge, and willingness to walk away from products or dispensaries that don't meet your standards. Cannabis is too valuable, whether as medicine, spiritual tool, or simple recreation, to settle for inferior products just because you don't know how to recognize quality or feel uncomfortable asking questions. Educate yourself, demand transparency, and never compromise on the standards that matter to you. The plant deserves that respect, and so do you.